Hey there, Dragon Ball Infinity. I'm Luke, your roleplay admin, and this is a roleplay review for the DBI Origins of Viktor by Viktor. This is a pretty good log. Uh, it's written very well. There's took me a couple reads to really get it, I guess. I see the evolution of the character, and I see how he sort of got his viewpoints. You know, his parents are killed. They're murdered. Two burglars break into their house, demand their valuables and their possessions and things like that. And they're a meager family. They come from honest living and they just don't have it to give. So they end up dying. He's probably pretty emotionally scarred by it, and he gets shipped off to an orphanage in VAC. While he's there, he kind of has this, uh, I'm gonna say, warped psychology, and it's warped. It is warped. Don't get me wrong. It is warped, but it makes sense in that, as a child, you would be looking for answers. You would be looking for a reason why your parents were brutally murdered. You'd be looking for something to blame, and most children would blame themselves. But in this situation, you can't. Victor obviously can't because he had literally nothing to do with it. So instead, he's looking for the next obvious, what caused this, and basically he comes to the conclusion that society sort of created this created this dysfunction. In that, these rich and wealthy have created this society where where that sort of violence could happen, and then once that violence does happen, the society doesn't really do anything to help him. He can't get adopted because he's not like from a prestigious family. He's not exactly a protege in anything um, besides violence. Um, so, I see the evolution of the character, and again, it is warped. It is a warped psychology because he is wrong, and there's no doubt that he's wrong, and he's blaming the wrong people. But at the same time, it's understandable, and you can empathize with it because, you know, that's how a child would. That's how you would build out this kind of character. So it works, and again, it's wrong, but it works because this is the it just this is how it is. The orphanage eventually gets shut down. Victor has a very violent reaction to it, and he basically dedicates himself to tearing down the society itself because he thinks that the society is corrupt, that it's a lot of vanity, that you know money sort of dictates you know who has privileges in life, and again, it's a warped way of thinking, but it's correct for this character because of his background and because of the events that led up to this moment. So, it works for him. It wouldn't work for everyone else, but it works for Victor. Um, I kind of, I kind of wish it wasn't V-Day City. Just setting wise, when I put V-Day City on the map, it was supposed to be a good city, where we didn't have corrupt politicians and things were getting better. But that's just not happening. You guys are not interested in that at all. Like every place has to be corrupt. Everything has to be uh, terrible. So we're just gonna have to roll with it. That aside, again, this works. This has a lot of the answers that I was looking for when I when I was reviewing a lot of Victor's other logs. Um, I still don't know his plan. Still don't exactly know what he plans to do because ultimately, no matter what he does, he's just going to create another society, and the society he's going to create is going to be infinitely worse than the one that was before it. You want to talk about corruption? You know, you're basically creating a society where absolute power is the focal point. Well, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So I wonder if down the line Victor is going to realize that one, his perception of everything that happened was wrong, and two, that the world that he's going to create is going to be, again, infinitely worse than the one that he already has. And but maybe it won't matter. Again, Victor's kind of the guy who thrives in chaos, so he might enjoy it. But I'm hoping that there is at least room in this story for an epiphany or revelation, because again, Victor is going to be the guy doing the sorts of acts and the sorts of crimes that led to his own beginning. He's going to be creating more Victors. He's going to be hurting more people. He's going to be sending more children to the orphanage by killing their parents and doing awful things. And ultimately, he's going to come into wealth and power as well. And then at what point, is he going to be able to reflect on that and see that he has become the tyranny that, you know, the tyranny of his own life? I'm not saying that has to be soon. I'm not saying it even ever has to happen. But as long as it's a possibility somewhere in the story, I think that would add a deeper layer. And it's definitely something that you could go for later on. I mean, for now, what you're doing is fine. But, again, um, a character like Victor, a character has to keep evolving, and eventually I think you will hit these. I mean, I don't see how you couldn't unless you're just absolutely baseless and you've lost all moral integrity, which maybe Victor has, but as a humanitarian myself, I don't think that you can completely lose your moral compass. Like, eventually you have to realize that what you're doing is wrong. But whether you choose to ignore it after that is up to you, but I don't think that anybody can completely lose their moral compass, barring insanity. But and then the big word in roleplay here is hope. And I think it's really interesting because we have two very diverse groups appearing on opposite sides of the universe. On Earth, we have Victor and Aetherius and Muramashi and all these other characters who have lost hope and who, in a way, you're actually searching for hope. You're trying to create your perfect society. You're trying to create a new world, and that's hope. Even if it's a deranged hope, it's still hope. Um, and then we have Cyber, Maxed, and Rizian on Hydia, and their story seems to revolve around this idea of hope. And I like that. I like that that word is such a big word, and it has so many meanings and so much symbolism. And the fact that we have these two factions kind of forming is interesting. And I don't know if you deliberately used the word hope or if you deliberately uh, went in that direction to be the antithesis, the anathema to what's happening on Hydia with my character Cyber and some of these other characters, Maxa and Rizian. But I do think it's interesting that it's happening, and I think it'll create an interesting dynamic later on when these two factions eventually meet each other, because inevitably they will. And I guess we'll find out what's more powerful, hope or hopelessness. Um, but I mean, you know how I stand on that. I think I guess if I were Cyber, the thing that I would say to Victor is that you can't lose hope. You can only forsake it. So anyway, this has been a roleplay review. I'm Luke, your roleplay admin. I'll see you guys in the chat.